Well, every Tuesday, the Rhode Island Education Commissioner, Angelica Infante-Green, joins us here on 12 News Now at 4. And this afternoon, she is here with us. Commissioner, thank you so much for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So we understand in just a short time from now, there's going to be the quarterly meeting of the Board of Education. And on the agenda is an update on reopening schools. So what is the update you expect to provide this evening?
Well, I visited quite a few schools statewide just to talk about what I've seen, how kids are doing, teachers. Kids have been really resilient, really excited, teachers as well, what it looks like. It's very different than when we left in March. Some of the things we've had to change, what we've learned already in the few days that we've been back, processes that have changed. So I think there's a lot to report, but overall, it's been pretty successful, I have to say.
We've learned that later this week, the Department of Health will start issuing a school-by-school breakdown of coronavirus cases. Obviously, parents want to know where these cases are popping up. So is this something that you advocated for? And what do you hope families take away from this data?
Well, I think that we've been talking a lot about transparency, and we've been working very closely with the Department of Health, and that's something that we wanted to do from the very beginning, is be transparent and how we were going to notify families when there were cases in the building and what we can do. I think what's interesting is also knowing how the cases came about, because I think so far a lot of our cases have been adults that haven't necessarily contracted it in the school, but that have come to work feeling a little sick, or students that have been a little sick. So we want to make sure that we emphasize that if you're not feeling well, please don't come. I think even if you're confused, if it's allergies, make sure, go see a doctor.
Do you know how soon that dashboard will go live? Will that be something we see tomorrow or by the end of the week?
I think by the end of the week, we'll have it up and running.
Just this week, the Rhode Island ACLU raising some concerns about privacy for students who are doing distance learning. They found that the majority of school districts give officials the power to access the contents, microphone, camera of computers that are being given to students at any time, and basically saying some of these students have no expectation of privacy when they're using these devices. So do you think it's time that Rhode Island have a uniform policy to address this as, distance learning becomes more ubiquitous?
Well, I think because now it is part of what we're doing, we need to look into what makes sense for Rhode Island. So I think that it's something that we need to have guidance around, because I think that there should be a sense of privacy at some point in the household. So I think it's something that we need to look at.
What's your message to parents about their reaction to hearing that a student's computer could be accessed at any time by the district? What would you say to folks who might be alarmed by that?
Well, I would hope that we're not accessing anyone's computer unless there is some sort of a need or some sort of distress, but it should only be accessed during the school hours. I haven't heard of a case of that happening here in Rhode Island. So I would say to parents, do not worry. I think that teachers and all administrators are respecting of families and what they're seeing in the class and in their homes, and are not probably accessing it during hours that are not school hours.
I know the future of education is uncertain right now in terms of when kids will be allowed back in their classrooms in certain places, what the virus is going to do. But I put out a query on Facebook to parents if anyone had any questions for you. There were a lot. But one of them was from a woman named Erica, and she said her daughter right now is in full distance learning, and she likes it. And she wants to know if you think this will be an option, for the rest of this year and in years to come. Do you think that districts should consider keeping full distance learning on the table for students and families who want that option?
I think we have to look at the data. How, do kids benefit from it? Liking it is one thing. I think that there will be some form of distance learning, that we know for sure. Education has changed. It will no longer be the same, but we have to look at the data. Are kids really learning the same way? Are they responding the same way? I think it's too soon, but we definitely know that there will be options moving forward.
I asked you this question last week, and I think this is where we'll finish again this week. You mentioned it at the top of our interview here, too, that at the meeting this evening, you'll be talking about lessons learned over the past week. So what's another lesson that you've taken away since school has reopened?
You know, kids are resilient. And sometimes you think things are going to work one way, and then we have to be flexible. When I went to Portsmouth, they talked about how their dismissal or their when they were letting the kids in the morning had to change. And they changed it the next day, and parents were pretty flexible. You know, sometimes on paper things look one way, and then we have to kind of adapt it and adjust it to students. But what I definitely saw was happy kids, excited teachers. I am so glad that we as a state have worked so hard to give parents an option, and I'm proud of that work that we have all done collectively.
Commissioner, anything else you'd like to add or let people know this afternoon?
I will tell you that everybody's working hard, and we're listening to all the voices, and we will get better, and we will do better every single day. And I want us to keep focusing in on instruction. That's what's at the heart of all this, is making sure that our kids have the best education possible.
Rhode Island's Commissioner of Education, Angelica Infante-Green, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.